Hi everyone, and welcome to the Get Good at Business podcast. I am so honored and excited today to share the show with my best friend, Brandy Barola. Hi, Brandy.
Hi.
So we're going to do something a little bit different today. If you're a longtime listener of the podcast, as we've gone through our iterations, which we'll discuss here on the show, you know that I do a solo show. But to relaunch and kick off this version of the podcast, this Get Good at Business version of the podcast, I thought it'd be helpful and beneficial to have Brandy interview me, and because she's going to pull the right things out of me versus me just talking at you and trying to explain what's been going on over the last couple years and why we've shifted to these iterations and how we have come to be here now today. So that said, Brandy has been a good friend of mine, my best friend for a long time now, 3-4 years. We both started at the bottom. Now we're here. And she's in Hawaii, so we're on a different time zone. And it's just been awesome to be friends with her over the last couple of years. She has seen and heard everything from the intimate details of me crying and trying to figure out my life to the successes and the things that I just get lit up about. And so she's been here for the ride, and I figured she'd be the perfect person to interview me. So thank you so much for joining me today, Brandy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited and honored that I am the one that gets to help you relaunch the podcast and share the new things that are going on.
I love it. Awesome. So ask me some questions.
All right. Well, first, let's maybe just start with what's been happening over the last few years. Why did the podcast stop? Why is it starting? And let's just go from there.
Yeah. So, as you know, it started out as Happiness Abound. We had over 500 episodes. We meaning me and the mouse in my pocket, but we talk like corporations over here. So, we started a podcast, 500 episodes called Happiness Abound, all about transformational happiness mentoring, things that you can do to build happiness habits in your everyday life to really improve your life. And that was awesome. In the midst of that, I started getting one-on-one clients who would work with me and say at the end of working together that they were ecstatic. They loved it. Everything was awesome. We had a 1 through 10 scale. And so most people would come to me anywhere between a 1 and a 2 on the scale. That's being relatively low. And then we would get them to 7s, 8s, and 9s consistently. And even now, several years later, I still have connection with those clients, and they'll still message me and be like, yep, I'm at an 8 today. And it's 3-4 years later, which is awesome. But by the time we would finish working together, what would end up happening is they'd be like, oh, I'm so much better. I feel happier in my personal life. Now, if I could just get my business where I want it to be. And fun little fact is that I was doing happiness mentoring on the side, and I had a full-time corporate job as a senior director at a company called ClearLink, where I headed up our brand love department. And in that, in 3 years, we went from 0 employees to 30, from 1 service to 5, from 1 language to 5, and from 1 location located in my hometown, Salt Lake City, Utah, to 2, the other one being in Edinburgh, Scotland, serving our EMEA market, which I got to go over there for 6 weeks and get all of that set up. So I lived in Scotland for a short period of time. But in that, I had my clients who really needed help with their business. And it was like I had this whole secret life that really fed and suited what they needed there as well. And I just wasn't tapping into it. So I shifted things, as anyone who's a longtime listener knows, shifted things from not just happiness mentoring, but to creating with confidence. The idea being that when you can get your happiness stuff together and you can start creating with confidence in your business, everything really pulls together. In the middle of that, I ended up leaving the corporate job with ClearLink, was sad to leave my team of 3 years, but felt the call to move on. Ended up going to another organization that really wasn't that great of a fit. And I was there for about, and Brandy, you know this in intimate detail, I was there for about 1 year and 3 months, and it was hell. And it was nothing on the company. It just was square peg, round hole. And I cried to you so many times, Brandy, just being like, what am I doing? And it really was this push, and I'm so grateful for it. It really was this push to take everything that I had learned and go full time into my business. So I went that route and went full time into my business. But you specifically had asked why the podcast stopped. And the reason behind that is that I was so torn up about not fitting into this company's culture. And quite frankly, I'm the kind of person, I'd like to think I'm the kind of person that I can fit in almost anywhere. I have pretty versatile hobbies and interests, and I can connect with anybody on almost anything. And I'm open-minded, and I'm like, yeah, I can fit in almost anywhere. And I'm the kind of person who succeeds anywhere I go. And so this was the first time in my life that I had shifted in my career and suddenly didn't feel like I was successful as I could be, didn't feel like I fit in the company, felt like I was treading water and just couldn't even get my head above water. And in that, I really lost the confidence in creating a podcast every week, sharing about creating with confidence, when here I was scrambling, trying to figure out what was going on. And
Yeah.
when I let,
Go ahead. Yeah.
and I said I was there for a year and 3 months. Well, at about 9 months of 9 months of beating my head against the wall and wondering what's wrong with me, because like we've been there, right? I got a call from a friend who also worked at that organization. And she said, hey, I was in a VP position. So I'm also in senior leadership. They don't have any C-suite other than the CEO. So I'm essentially in the C-suite and feeling this way. And so I had a friend who had also worked for the company reach out to me and say, hey, I know you're in C-suite and like you might not be able to talk about this kind of stuff, but are you going through or seeing? And she listed off all the things that I was feeling. And I'm so grateful for her, because that expanded my idea of like, okay, it's not me. It's not an incident with me. It's not a personnel problem, which high achievers, right? We tend to be that way. We tend to be like, okay, well, I can fix this. So for 9 months beating my head against the wall, and she listed off every single thing that I was struggling with. And it made me realize that it was a cultural deal and it was a pattern, not an incident, meaning that it wasn't me. And she was asking me because she was feeling the same way. And she's a high achiever. And she's like, what am I doing? And so in that, it really helped me boost my confidence enough to be able to leave and go out into business on my own. But I still didn't start the podcast because I immediately jumped into consulting for major companies. And that took up the bulk of my time. Although I was working for myself, I was consulting and contracting for these major companies and just didn't have the dedication or the bandwidth to be able to do the podcast at the level that I want to. And here we are. Some of those contracts have been pushed to the side or have paused for the time being. And I'm really excited to dive into the podcast as it is and really start helping people get good at business, because that's really where my bread and butter has been for the last 15 years of my corporate career. And even the last year and a half of my business has been really focused on helping large enterprise companies grow.
I love that you ended with growth, because that's what I was going to say was I saw through all of this growth in you, and even your podcast is a great example of that and how it evolved, right? And I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about the growth and the changing. And that means I'm, being flaky, or I can't make up with my mind and what I want to do. And to me, I saw it as growth. You were figuring things out. You were figuring out what didn't work for you, what did work for you, what areas you want to grow in. And you were able to put stuff aside when it didn't work for you anymore. And that also shows, I think, your great, huge, major ability to help businesses grow, because you personally can grow. And I think that's what you really excel at in the business area, is getting these businesses to grow, because you can see and it's not just that, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's not just a funnel or one area, right? It's business is business, and it's multifaceted, and there's so many things to it. And I just think you're really good at seeing all the different pieces, being able to help put them together, for growth. So
Yeah,
I love it.
thank you. And I appreciate you saying that too, because I had somebody I was talking to the other day. And so we just rebranded in visuals, and now we're rebranding in messaging. And I was talking to actually a client, and we were chatting, and I said, yeah, I'm a little worried about this latest switch because I've changed things up a couple of times in the last couple of years, and I don't want it to seem like I'm inconsistent. And she said to me two of the greatest things, which you say to me all the time, but you're my best friend. So it's like, you have to say it, right? Not
No,
really.
I don't have to.
You're so honest with me anyways. But she had said that she didn't see it as inconsistent or flaky. She saw it as every single time it was a level up, which is what you just said, right? This level of growth. And then she also had said that because of all the changes and things that I've made along the way, she and you are a few of the people who have seen like the reasons behind why I would stop working with a company or why things weren't a good fit anymore. And she's like, if anything else, she goes, you are the epitome of integrity. And if it's out of alignment, it's not in integrity for you anymore, you don't stick with it. And that's a level up because you're maintaining your integrity within that. And I thought that was so cool. And I love how you put it, which is it's very much growth oriented. And I think as business owners, we get kind of caught up in our own minds and our own heads of, oh, this looks flaky, this looks inconsistent, it looks like I'm changing gears again. But ultimately, like the underlying current of mindset and leadership and strategy and marketing and operations has been part of my DNA for since I ran my own business back when I was 20 and a wedding planner, right? And so I think that it's just been part of my DNA, and I haven't really stepped as fully into it until now, which a lot of that's based on a conversation you and I had.
Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So I called Brandy and I was like, I feel like I have such a broad capacity to help people, but just saying, one area is so limiting, and I don't want to be known as just the content coach, although I am excellent at content creation and strategy and planning and marketing. And I was like, but I'm also really good at operations. And I do something called Quantum Power Days, which really helps business owners at any stage step into the strategy, the leadership, the marketing, the operations through action-driven time, right? So in a 6-hour period, we allow them to tap into their power, quantum leap their business forward, and really take action on the things that they need to take action on instead of just going for a VIP day and getting coached and having more homework than they came in with. And so, as we were talking about that, I kind of was griping to you.
But I want to add, you had mentioned before the happiness piece, right? And so that's more of like a kind of a personal level. And
Yep.
that's when you said, okay, so they get happy, and then, okay, well, now I want my business to grow. And I think that's one thing people forget is, especially if it's your business, you are part of the business. And so your happiness, your growth, your personal mindset and all of that can either hinder or expand your business. And I think you do that so well too, because you've had that experience, not only as a leader or, VP in different roles in the corporate world, but also with your clients. So I think that's another reason why you're so just great at business is it's not just the business itself, it's the person, because the person has to be good as well as the business.
I heard somewhere that your business is capped by your ability to grow personally. And I love that. Definitely.
I agree. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so sorry, keep going with the conversation.
No, so you pulled out something that was pretty awesome as I was deep diving into, well, what do I do? How do I help people? Because it's such a broad scale that I can offer. It's so hard in my brain. I was like, that's so hard to say in a simple, memorable way. At which point you said something that changed everything.
And I said, you're
Do you
just
want to share
fucking
what you
good at
said?
business.
Yeah. Say it one more time. I was laughing over you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I said, you're just fucking good at business.
And I was like, yeah, but how do I market that? How do I use that as my thing? And you were like, you just do. So I came home, invigorated by our conversation, as always. And I was like, I wonder if Get Good at Business is even available. Which in today's modern age, you think getgoodatbusiness.com, there's no way. And you're going to be paying thousands of dollars to be able to get that URL, right? So I go on GoDaddy and lo and behold, it's available. And all of the social handles for it are available. And to pull in a little bit of that like personal fate type of thing, when I started Happiness Abound, I had a dream about the name. And I was like, there's no way that this URL is available. And it was. And since then, I have built and grown so much that to have something that also just kind of falls in from you just calling it how you see it, to the URL being available, to all the social handles being available, to Get Good at Business, it was like, this is it. This is the path. And I've been searching as a business owner and as an individual, and knowing that you need something bigger to grow a company. I've been searching for a movement, if you will. Right. And it was like, yeah, you can get good at your content. You can get good at your operations. You can get good at your marketing. You can get happier. But like, really, what is the movement to stand on? And that idea of get good at business. I think every business owner wants to be better at business. And no matter where you're at, whether it's in a C-suite level, which I've also been in, I get that. I know that, right? From the corporate side or from the entrepreneurial startup side, been there, done that too, right? Wherever you're at, whether it's an established business or just starting out, like everyone has this desire to get better at business, right? To get good at business. And so I think that it's really opened up this idea for a movement, for a platform. And I feel honored that I get to be the one called to head up that movement. And I'm so glad that you're so honest with me, because I don't think I would have ever landed on it if you hadn't been like, dude, you're just great. You're good at business. Like, just
Yeah.
own it, which was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And I think we get stuck in that put me in a box, right? Everyone's like, you have to niche down, you have to pick one thing, you have to, go full bore and on one. And I just, maybe that work, that works for some. And I think for people like us, it doesn't. We are, not only there's things that we love doing that are different, we have a variety of loves, a variety of passions, a variety of things we're good at, I mean, there's just so much. And I think it's just awesome that you're stepping out of the box. You're not trying to put yourself in there, but also it's just a simple thing. Get good at business. It's not, this huge long tagline of trying to tell people everything that you do. You get on people's socials and they have this huge long, it's like, okay, so what is it that you do again? Because you just said 15 million words, and I just like, can you simplify it? And I think some people just can't. And that's just a perfect, simple statement that I think everybody can understand.
Yeah, totally. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I
Yeah.
think too, like, I want to be clear is that in all my years of corporate experience, and then even in running my own businesses, not just the coaching side, but I owned a crystal tree company and I owned a wedding planning company and a million other things, right? That multi-passionate piece comes in, but it has served me so well to not limit myself and my opportunities. And I think that when we get into this mode of like, it has to be a certain way, that's when the blinders come on. And you've seen me do this how many times where the blinders come on? I'm like, no, it has to be like this. And you're like, yeah, but just pull back for a second. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I see that. And which is amazing because I'm able to help other people do that all the time. But we're coaches, right? Like anyone who is a coach, they have a hard time coaching themselves at some point. And which is why it's so great to have wonderful friends like you. But I also think that like, it's this level of when you open yourself to all the opportunities. So as soon as I quit corporate world, I got consulting gigs. in two of those consulting gigs, one of them I still have, the other one I've shifted to be on the board of directors, but I was in C-suite level positions, really as a fractional executive, really taking and consulting and working with these organizations to get them from zero to valued in the millions. One of them is looking to be sold for $1 billion or 1.5 billion in the next 3 to 5 years. And I've had a hand in helping them be able to scale and grow to that. And so it's like, if I had just kept my blinders on and been like, this is all I do, and tried to stay in that box, even those opportunities which support people getting better at business, right? Help other business owners get good at business because of the breadth of experience. If I had put those blinders on and said, no, it has to be this way, those opportunities never would have came. And I think as business owners, yes, you're right. Like we need to, or we think that we need to niche down. We think that we need to really be in this box, but sometimes it's the elevated, simple and broader spectrum that allows us to really flourish, which is one of my goals here with the podcast and the change to get good at business, is to activate that movement, but also be able to show that like you can have that broader vision and still see massive growth and massive success.
Yeah. Yeah. Bird's eye view, right? And I don't want people to think because the word good is in there that it doesn't mean fantastic or extraordinary or whatever, right? It's not mediocre. She's not saying be mediocre at business. That's not what she's saying at all. It just sounds great altogether, right?
But I
But
think that's actually a great point. Really quick here, I think that's an excellent point to make, because when did good become bad?
Right. Or not good enough.
Or not good enough, right? And I think that that's a mindset piece that so many people are in right now. It's like, well, I need to be great. I need to be fantastic. I need to do all these things. And it's like, yeah. And all of that is good. Like you can be good at business. And so many business owners get into business to be good at what they're good at, meaning coaching, helping people, transformation, offering a service, whatever that may be, relationships, whatever they are good at doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at business. And so it's like, get good at business, and you can be fantastic at it and do what you got into business to do in the first place. But it just popped into my head. I'm like, when did good become not good enough? Like that's not a thing, but somehow our culture, we've kind of twisted that. And I think that that's also a downfall of many business owners, is we're not able to see how good we actually are and then leverage that momentum.
Yeah. And I think as business owners, people are naturally really good at maybe one or two things. And then the other parts of the business like fall to the wayside, and then they don't understand why the business is suffering. And I think you have the bird's eye view, right? You can see all parts and where the disconnects are, or where there can be more of something or less of something. And so let's talk about clients that you've helped.
Yeah.
You've mentioned, all varieties of people that are just starting to multi-million-dollar businesses. So what are some stories you can share of client wins?
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. I'm going to say, first off, biggest client wins in my heart and mind are those that are done in Quantum Power Days. Because usually I see clients come in, and at the start of the Quantum Power Day, they have a list of things that they need to accomplish. And there's usually things that they've either put off because they don't know how to do. They've put off because they're afraid of the success it will give them. They've put off because they have fear around something else around it. Or it's just been it feels so overwhelming that they're like, I'm going to procrastinate about it. And those are usually the things that help progress and just catalyst their business so far forward. So at the beginning of a Quantum Power Day, we have a list of things that we need to get done. And we usually find there's a couple of beliefs in there that we need to break through. And that's that mindset piece. But by the end of our 6-hour day, which is 2 3-hour sections, the success at the end of it is just massive. Like the accomplishment, because we finish everything on the to-do list and even then some. And it projects their business so far forward. I've had clients say it projects them anywhere between 3 months to 6 months into the future of their business, because they actually were able to get the stuff done that they've been putting off for 3 months. And now that it's done, they're able to take it to those next levels. So there's so many successes in that. I've been doing Quantum Power Days for over a year now, and they're 4 I only do 4 a month, and we've been sold out several times. So I can't like pinpoint a specific one without like calling out a specific client, but just the transformation and the success that comes from those alone is one of my favorite success stories to be able to tell, because it's so transformative and so elevating to their business in ways that there's not a lot out there that's doing that. So that's number one. Number two, I've had the opportunity to really work, as I mentioned, when I was working in corporate, to grow and develop departments from zero to massive amounts of scale in just 3 years. And in that, I have a lot of pride around that, right? There's a lot of success that happened with that. Oh man, we went from zero to improving our revenue up to million plus in a 3-year period, which is nearly unheard of in a corporate world with a corporate team and department, let alone going international and multilingual and all of that. I don't speak any other languages. So like that's to be in charge of that, and then have, you have a good team surrounding you, and you have to build up that team and have the leadership traits and things like that. But two of the other companies that I've worked with, that one of them has been valued at over 10 million, and was really a startup. And I got to be with them on the ground floor, and I'm still with them as we've transitioned and pivoted to different areas of business to find kind of the space that works to be successful. And our messaging and our services and our products and all of that has just really shifted and grown. But every time we make a pivot, it really elevates the business, and I see that as a success. And then the other one, I'm really actually very proud of being able to help this company that wants to be sold for $1 billion or more in 5 years or less. Before I came on and before helping them, there was a lot of scattered, and I came on as the COO, a fractional executive COO. And so I came on and started building out SOPs and developing processes, and then completely revamped the business plan and projections and all of those components, and them being able to utilize that information and that documentation to be able to go and get investors has been huge, and super proud of the success of that. But also, this is a woman who is running a global company, international company, getting ready to sell for $1 billion or more. And the number of like leadership and mindset conversations we had about decisions and team members and how do we do this and what do we do here was just huge. And I see that as a massive success to be able to have assisted her in growing her business and her company in ways that I really excel in. And I'm going to be honest, and Brandy, you see it every day and I live it every day. So sometimes I forget how cool it actually is, but there's very few people that I know of that have the skill set, the experience, and the viewpoint that I have to be able to help in so many diverse areas to grow what I call enterprise startups, which are these startup companies starting from zero and scaling to enterprise levels really, really quick. And so to help them succeed and to really leverage my skill sets and help them has been massive. And so I love helping business owners at all scales, wherever they're at, be able to get good at business and really trust themselves, AKA create with confidence, right? That was never not aligned. It's gotten better, right? We've elevated it. Yeah. But to be able to create with confidence and be able to have happiness in their life, happiness abound, right? We've just evolved to encompass a lot more. And there's just been so many successes along the way that without like naming specific client things, that's kind of my high level views. But as I go on in the podcast going forward, I'll be sharing more key stories of success and mindset to help our listeners really be able to step into the shoes of the people I've been able to help and hopefully help them as well.
I love that. And you've kind of just gone on to the next thing of what's next.
What's next is helping people get good at business. Yes. No, it really is. Like I said, I feel like, and you've seen kind of the stumbles along the way, but this feels like it's it. And it's finally an area that doesn't just encompass one of my skill sets and strengths, but allows me to really help business owners get good at business. And what that looks like is ongoing with this podcast. What that looks like is showing up more fully, because if I can show up more fully, that gives other people permission to show up more fully, and then we can all succeed and grow together. But also, like, as much as this has been here's my story and how we're restarting and how we're going with all of this, it really isn't about me. And I'm excited and honored to really propel this. I'm going to call it a movement again, right? This movement of getting good at business, but also it's not about me. It's about helping other entrepreneurs be able to sift through all that is out there, right? You can watch a million TikToks on how to be better at content, how to be better at operations, and how to be good at this, and a copywriter, and emails, and funnels, and da 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 da. And it's like, that's so much. And you're like, I just wanted to be coaching. I didn't want to do this whole thing, but also like I'm a business owner and I want my business to be successful and I want to help people. Well, that's kind of where I come in. Not kind of, that is where I come in, which is that you don't have to sift through all of that stuff and be good at everything. Let's figure out what's congruent to you and let's grow from there and grow your business in strategic and planned ways that set you up for success so that you're not getting pulled in a million different directions, feeling like you don't know what to do and doubting your worth as a business owner and not being able to get back at what you actually got into business for in the first place. And so my whole goal is to help other individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, step back into who they are and be able to get good at business.
I love it. Yeah. And I feel like you can help anybody that is, like you said, in a leadership role, own their own business, just starting, wants to start, because you just have so many resources and you have stepped into businesses that are in very different phases, that are in very different industries, that are, it's not just coaches, it's not just marketing business, like there's just so many different types. So yeah, you're just so well-rounded and I love it. So I love that I can also bounce my ideas off you and be like, hey, what do you think about this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for, I feel like I talked the whole time, but
I mean, that's what this was. This was your reintroduction, and maybe share where they can find you, how can they work with you, things like that.
yeah. So if you go to getgoodatbusiness.com, it will take you to the resource page with all of the podcast information and things like that. And it will take you to my website where you can find out more information, which is also go to getgoodatbusiness.com and it will redirect you to taylorproctor.com. So you have some options there. Also, all my social handles are now Get Good at Business, which is so like, whoa, I can't even believe those were available, even still. So you can find me in all of those areas at Get Good at Business or getgoodatbusiness.com. And I have several ways to work with me. The main priority for me right now is working with business owners in Quantum Power Days, because that is the biggest transformation and success piece and offers the most growth to you as a business owner. And that's what I'm all about, is that transformation and that growth for you. So you can find me at getgoodatbusiness.com or taylorproctor.com.
I love it. Well, thank you, Taylor. We are also excited to see what happens and all the new growth that's going to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much.